Hey everyone, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Kurt on Cougs. Crazy to think this is our last preview video of the regular season. Yeah, a lot happening men's and women's basketball. Some big stories to keep track of. Some unfortunate news. As well, interesting outlook for the future. We're going to go through it all today. For the Cougs. And first of all, starting looking all around Cougar sports, you got men's volleyball. They got a series this week against USC. They lost the first match yesterday, 2-3, so kept it real close. And by the way, that's number 5 USC, so this is a big chance for the Cougars. They're currently ranked number 6, so I think there's a decent chance if they were to win tonight's game, either 3-1 or 3-0, there's a chance they manage to move up and take the number 5 spot, which of course would be awesome, would be great. Yeah, and that one is at home at the Smith Fieldhouse, so very good news there. Meantime, moving on to baseball. This week they've had a series against the Stetson Hatters. They lost the first game but have won the next two. The first of those two wins, won 10-2, big win. And then earlier today, a thriller. The Cougars come into the final inning down 4-2. Ultimately make a comeback. They were down, they were tied 4-4. Men on second and first, 1 out. Cooper Vest up to bat, hits a walk-off double to finish the comeback, 5-4. And the Cougars will play another game against the Hatters later today. So, yeah, very good. Been loving what we've been seeing from BYU baseball. A team that was projected to be towards the bottom of the Big 12. Now they're looking like they might be decently competitive. I'm not necessarily saying NCAA tournament good or anything like that. But a team that could potentially finish top 10 in conference standings. So, really excited to see what continues to happen there. In the meantime, women's softball, went 1-2 this week in a series at Arizona State. They won their game yesterday by 1. Today, lost a heartbreaker in extras on a walk-off hit. But still, Arizona State, a really good team in the Big 12. So I think just being able to go on the road and get one of those wins, super impressive, super awesome. So now going back to basketball, not a great week overall for BYU women's basketball. It all started on Tuesday in a 81-69 loss to UCF in the first round of the Big 12 tournament. Ultimately, this one, big factors in why they lost were that, for one thing, you get out-rebounded. Anytime UCF having 14 offensive boards, that's just something you can't give up and expect to win games. So that was not great. And then one of the keys to the game, I believe I gave earlier in the week, was to be able to slow down Caitlin Peterson. Unfortunately, the Cougars were not able to do that. As Caitlin Peterson went for 35, had a big game. So kudos to her. For the Cougars, that was someone you really wanted to stop, really wanted to slow down. Ultimately, that doesn't happen in that game. And yeah, that right there, that 35 points by Caitlin Peterson is about 43% of their total team points. So yeah, a tough loss. Cougars were led by Delaney Gibb with 15 points. Right behind her, you also had Amari Whiting with 14 and Congdon with 11. And so now we kind of just waiting game until Selection Sunday to see, does this BYU team earn a spot in one of the postseason tournaments? I know there's the NIT. I know there's the one BYU played in last year. I don't remember its name. My excuse for that is I was on my mission, so I wasn't really super focused on that at the time. Heard little bits and pieces here and there, but yeah, so tough week, and then it just got tougher. Ultimately, BYU is parting ways with head coach Amber Whiting. Definitely unfortunate, it's always tough to go through a coaching change. It's always tough for coaches to, lose their jobs, and so yeah, definitely tough. Not totally unexpected. In my opinion, they could have waited a little longer. Only 2 years into one of the toughest conferences in the nation. Kind of caught me off guard, but in the meantime, 3 straight losing years in conference play will lead to that. Her daughter, Amari Whiting, is currently, it seems, looking to transfer. Hopefully that's all. Hopefully we don't see more players enter. Totally don't blame Amari for that decision. Makes sense. She might want to go somewhere else now. And yeah, so now looking forward, though, of course, it's time for BYU to make a good hire. We've seen the difference a good hire can make. We look on the men's basketball side of things. After Coach Pope left, looked like BYU might be left for dead, might just fade into irrelevance. But they brought in Kevin Young, and he has resurrected the program right back up, and even better. AJ DeBonsa coming in this year, looking to potentially be a deep threat team in the NCAA tournament. And so, yeah, getting a good hire here would be huge. In my opinion, my 2 best candidates for this, and I got these out of an article I read earlier today, are Morgan Bailey. She's a former Cougar. I believe she graduated 2015, 2016-ish. Was really good for the Cougars. She's been coaching all around the state of Utah as an assistant, currently with the Utes, one of their assistants. I think this would be a really good hire. She has connections to the program. She has experience recruiting in the state. I think getting her would be a big get for the Cougars, be very helpful. So, yeah, getting Morgan Bailey, that would be an awesome hire. Now, if you want to look in-house, I believe the Cougars have a really good option in Lee Kamard. You might recognize his name as a former great BYU men's basketball player. He's been coaching with the women's team, I believe, ever since like 2019 or so. So I think that he would be a really good hire. And yeah, had lots of experience in the program. He's a dude, I believe, played professional basketball, so maybe he can also use that background a little bit to get players in. From what I've heard, the players like him. And yeah, I think that he would also be a really good hire. Both those good options. At the same time, though, as well, looking back on the example of what happened with BYU men's basketball last year with the coaching change. Ultimately, they got a home run hire in Kevin Young. I kind of wonder, can BYU women's basketball do something pretty similar? Some coaches I would highlight for that would be Mark Madsen, current head coach at Cal, and Casey Beard, assistant coach at Texas Tech, on both men's basketball. But once again, we've seen that transition made a lot of times, going from coaching men's to coaching women's. Both of them members of the church. At this point, it is most realistic. It is going to be a member of the church that will be the new head coach. But you never know. But that's just what's most likely. So, of course, hoping to hear some good news soon. I'll keep my ear to the ground, listen for any rumors going around about that. So, yeah, and I personally, I think the future is very bright for BYU women's basketball, and just getting a good hire will further that. And, yeah, the sky's the limit for this team, honestly. Okay, I'm jumping over to BYU men's basketball. They've had a much better week. First of all, amazing win at Iowa State, double OT. Just wow. Oh my goodness, that game was incredible. They won that one 88-85. And yeah, one of the top all-time, definitely probably, at least at this point, the best win of the season so far. Big contributors in this one, you got Dallin Hall with 22 coming off the bench. He made a big impact. Richie Saunders once again leading the team, 23 points. Some big plays in this one. You got Keita's block on the dunk attempt. That was a huge play, especially just for momentum in that first overtime period. Yegor Demon had some big plays. I know early in the game he kind of struggled at times. Ultimately, he ends the game, though. 15 points. He had a big three to start the first overtime. And then he had the shot at the end of the first overtime to tie it, to send it to the second overtime. Ultimately, this was very much a game of runs. Cougars don't score any points until about 6 minutes in. Then they managed to go on a huge run, go up 21. Of course, though, against a team like Iowa State, especially at their place, a place where, by the way, this was only Iowa State's second loss at home in the last 2 years. So really impressive to be able to get that win. And ultimately, Cyclones make a run, set it to 2 overtimes. Cougars did a great job on that last defensive possession to force an air ball miss to ultimately seal this one. Now, big stats to help the Cougars here. For one thing, 52-24 was the rebounding margin. Cougars just dominated on the boards, and it really showed. Now, of course, the big weakness in this one, and it's amazing they overcame this, but definitely something you want to fix for the future, was 29 turnovers. You got to hang on to the ball. Can't be turning it over that much. But once again, great win. Nothing really to complain about. I mean, nothing too big to complain about from this one. Of course, always improvement to be made. And so, yeah, and it sets the Cougars up for a very exciting senior night, playing against Utah, the holy war of basketball. Yeah, in my opinion, this is kind of a full circle moment. We look back on the last game, a tough BYU loss on the road, controversial, heart-wrenching loss. Utah at the time was looking pretty good. BYU was kind of, fading. Weren't doing that well at that point. They were looking like a fringe contender team for the tournament. Since then, they've turned it up. Only lost 2 games since, and that includes winning the last 7 games. They're on a 7-game win streak, trying to make it 8 tonight. I think a lot of motivation for the game. You want to end strong. You want to get that revenge. Want to send the seniors out with a good game. A legendary group of seniors also. You got Trevin Nell, a guy who's been here since 2020, since my sophomore year of high school. Now I'm a freshman in college. He's just been a great contributor all this time. Honestly, kind of an underappreciated guy. Fusemi Torore, a dude that's done a great job just adjusting. He's kind of gone back and forth throughout his career between being the feature big man and kind of like the second big man, but keeps on thriving, keeps on playing well. He came up pretty big, of course, last week against West Virginia. You also got Mawat Mag, a star transfer dude that has come in. We thought he was going to be a great defensive specialist. Turns out to be much more than that. Also, really good at shooting the 3. So, really impressed by what he's done. Trey Stewart, probably one of the best stories on this BYU team. A guy who, early on in his career, we thought would be a starter eventually. Never really received those minutes, kind of has been buried in the depth chart at times. Ultimately comes into the season, works hard, and has had quite a nice year. Made some very clutch plays for the Cougars. And just an ultimate team player type dude. So, love all 4 of these seniors. Would love to see them go out with a win. Kind of looking at the chances of it, I think it's pretty likely the Cougars get a win this one. For one thing, Utah has been terrible on the road this year. Yeah. Only 1 win all season long during conference play have they won on the road. Sorry, that's kind of a weird way to say that, I guess. In the meantime, still with an interim head coach. They have announced the hiring, though, of Alex Jensen. That's a big hire for them, of course. But that's not really going to come into effect until next season. And so, yeah. So just looking at this, here are my deciding factors for tonight's game. First of all, on the defensive side, I'm going to say it's just defensive rebounding. You got 2 dudes for Utah that are really good at getting offensive rebounds in Usar and Lovering. Utah's one of the best teams in the conference in offensive rebounding. So in my opinion, that's going to be really important. That's really where Utah kind of has to hang their hat on if they're going to be successful or not on offense. So I think you got to just have to stop them on those boards. Because in the meantime, Utah's offense outside of offensive rebounding, not that good. They turn the ball over a lot. Not very good at threes. Madsen is probably their best 3-point shooter, even though he only shoots 29%. In my opinion, he'd probably have a higher 3-point shooting percentage than that. But I think he just ultimately ends up having to take a lot of bad shots because outside of him, the team doesn't really have a super consistent second scoring option. So in my opinion, that right there is Utah's one real strength on offense. So get the stops there, and you're looking pretty good. In the meantime, on the offensive side, I would say go right at one of Utah's weaknesses, which is guarding the 3. They have not been very good at this so far this season. And if you can just shoot the 3, and ultimately, in my opinion, I don't think this Utah team is going to be scoring very much. So for Utah, they need BYU to not be scoring a bunch if they're going to have a shot in this game. So if you can hit threes, speed up the offense, you should come away with a victory. Ultimately, my bold prediction in this one is that the Cougars will come away with a 20-point victory. I think they're going to get a good blowout here. They got the momentum, playing very hot at the moment, just all around the better team. And yeah, I think they win this one by 20. And I'm predicting a final score of 88-68. So yeah, all of that going down tonight. Excited to review it once it all happens. And yeah, see y'all later. Let's go Cougs.